Welcome into another episode of the Fergus Spotlight Podcast. This is always fun when we get some old high school friends and some now prestigious snowmobile legends in the house today. So I'm really excited to finally be getting the Team Rev Racing episode up here in the Fergus Spotlight. So welcome in Charlie and Dan Revering. How are you guys doing?
Not too bad. Thanks for having us in.
Yeah, it's good to make it happen, Bittner.
Yeah, it's been a long time coming. I know I've been asking you guys to do this for a bit, and this is perfect timing coming off of the season you guys have had. If you guys aren't living underneath a rock in Fergus news, you've heard about the Revering's big win this last February in Michigan, taking down the big I-500 race. So we're going to get into that. We're going to kind of really dive into the family roots a little bit, the snowmobile history. I'm not sure to the extent that you guys have had an opportunity to sit down together and share your story, but I'm excited to be a part of it here. So
yeah, it'll be good.
As far as the podcast goes here, before we get started, I do have some sponsors to thank. You might maybe see some Outstate beer here on the table. Feel free to crack one open if you're thirsty at all during the episode. We've got some Solar Flare, Grandma's Garden, Backroad Hazies. So good stuff here. Atlas Outdoor Services, Stumbeano's Coffee, Victor Lundeen's, Fergus Home and Hardware, Liberty Business Systems, and Wayne Schuett with Century 21 Atwood, as well as Dr. Zach Chiropractic. So I don't know, you guys do chiropractic care in these snowmobile races?
I probably need them.
Probably we should.
But no, Dr. Zach gets you taken care of. So now that I've got my sponsor moment, my NASCAR sponsor moment out of the way, I've seen you guys in interviews before. You guys are like super good with the interviews in snowmobile racing just like NASCAR racers. Like, yeah, this is how the track is. This is what's going on. This is my sponsor, blah, 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 blah. So I love it. I love how you guys, I love seeing your guys' kind of interactions through some of these. You guys have done some big interviews about this specific event that we're going to talk about today. So, yeah, I'm excited for you guys. Who wants to start with like a background, personal or family background? Obviously, you're the older brother here.
I think Dan's got the family background dialed in pretty good.
He does.
You
Okay.
could nail it too, but I can touch on it real quick. I mean, God, it's third generation type of a racing family history that we have. You know, our grandpa back in the 60s, he raced, and grandma did too, actually. So that'd be our mom's parents. So he really got it going back in the 60s. And then, so that's where it really started. He did the terrain 500 races in northern Minnesota, and then pretty much from Winnipeg to St. Paul. So like that winter carnival, he did that. And then our uncles raced and our mom raced, and now Charlie and I were just keeping it rolling.
So your grandpa would that have been in the 60s?
Yeah.
In the late 50s, early 60s, really before. And I have some notes on like the history of like snowmobile racing and how the sport developed. But that's really kind of when the sport was transitioning out of more machine use into like recreational use or some racing.
Yeah, snowmobiling was really in its infancy back then. So I mean, they were really for a 500-mile race or the endurance racing, they were more or less just developing snowmobiles for the manufacturers. At that time, there were something like 60 or 70 manufacturers of snowmobiles. So everybody was trying to get into the program at the same time. So it was really man versus machine. I mean, you had to keep your machine running and just make sure you didn't break stuff. And when you did break stuff, it was, you know, they would be fixing just as much as they'd be racing on the track. It's definitely a little bit different nowadays than what it used to be back then.
So how did did your grandpa, do you know if he knew somebody, he had connections, his family was involved with? Obviously, Polaris and Arctic Cat are based out of Minnesota or started in Minnesota. So did he have ties to those companies or anything early on?
You know, I don't think he did. I think he just loved riding snowmobile. A lot of people rode snowmobiles back then too. So I think it was just something he did in the winter. In the spring, summer, fall, he laid brick and block and was a masonry type of person. So then had winters off pretty much and rode snowmobiles.
And this was all on your mom's side of the family.
Yep.
Your mom's brothers ran in the I-500 that you guys won for a couple decades.
Yeah, at least.
Yeah.
At least.
Yeah,
Like
they
30
ran
years, like 20,
almost,
30 years.
Yeah, it was like 30 years. I think Charlie's godfather, ran it 30 years long. So, and that's out
Wow.
in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan.
Yep.
And that is the big one that Charlie and I won together.
Wow.
This winter.
Okay. Okay.
Our uncle Johnny he's in the top 3 of the most laps ran on that track.
Wow.
I
Okay.
mean, we're talking tens of thousands
Yeah.
of miles.
Tens of
Over
thousands.
10,000
on a 1
miles.
mile oval.
Wow. Wow.
Crazy.
Wow. So, as far as then a little bit more about your family development or your families, like, I mean, the sport, it's such a sacrificial thing to be a part of. I grew up ski racing and that's expensive enough, but I can only imagine the sacrifices that your family must have had to go through to get you guys into a situation where you had this opportunity to be able to race.
Yeah, I mean, we didn't race snowmobiles until I was like 24 and Charlie was probably 25, I think.
Yeah,
I mean,
25.
this is our 10th year doing it full time. And Charlie ran the first year. He ran one race, and then it sparked the fire under my butt, and I went and bought a sled. But I guess what I'm getting at is our parents said, if you guys want to go race snowmobiles, you got to, pay for your own sled and get a job. So we've been working since we were 14. And
Yeah, we started on a 2-place open trailer the first year, and then that next year, Dan and I and my parents, we all went in on a small enclosed trailer. Didn't have anything fancy for heat or really nothing fancy at all. We were using a propane heater, so you'd go in there and try and work on your snowmobiles, and you'd come out and you'd just be red-eyed from the lack of oxygen in the thing. And we just made it work, though. We just kept chipping away, and the hardest part is just getting into it and just showing up to races is really the most important thing to start acquiring sponsors and moving your way up to where it kind of makes it a little more feasible to keep racing.
You guys were always like kind of dirt bikers or gear junkies, I guess, growing up though. So before snowmobile racing, was that core for you guys, dirt racing?
Yeah, we definitely rode a lot of motocross.
yep.
Okay. And then, but you mentioned you were thinking about maybe doing something with snowcross or almost got into snowcross one day. That's what I think, as far as like the sport of snowmobiling, I think it was sort of glorified through the X Games. I think it first appeared in the X Games in like 98 or something. And then early 2000s, you had Levi LaValle and the snowcross world kind of at its craze. You never got into that type of the sport though?
We never have done snowcross. Charlie and I raced a lot of faircross, like supercross type of dirt bike races and then district dirt bike races too. But there's 4 different types of snowmobile racing. You got snowcross, you got ice oval racing, you got the national cross country circuit, which we do, and then you got your hill climb out in the mountains. So yeah, you got one of those 4.
By the way, my assistant also says we've got drag racing.
Yeah, oh yeah.
And as well as watercross, which sounds wild. Watercross sounds like, why not just use a jet ski?
Right.
What are you doing, right?
If you can do it, why not try?
But they literally race. They race
more.
on open water. They race snowmobiles on open water against each other. That's crazy. So
yeah.
But those are more obscure.
Yeah, like the national type of circuits are pretty much those 4.
Right.
But
So yeah. It says here, snowcross, the stadium track-based racing, sort of what you would see in the X Games. That cross-country racing, we'll get into talking about that, kind of how that sport has come to be. This ice oval racing with the United States Snowmobile Association. I don't know what leagues necessarily are involved.
USSA. That's
USSA.
Yeah,
And then
like
Myra is also a different circuit. It's kind of 2 different racing styles.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Yep.
And then the hill climb obviously is. Have you done any hill climbing? Any of that stuff?
No, we haven't. I don't know if we'd have to put our learning helmets on to get that one done.
It sounds
but-
expensive. It sounds like it sounds like you're wrecking stuff.
I'm sure everybody's seen the viral videos of the sleds tumbling down the hills.
I've seen, obviously there's some crashes in snowcross when you're leaving the ground and stuff. Do you guys have crashes in these oval races?
There are for sure. And
Okay.
cross country too, it is a potential for it to happen. But like our dad and mom always say, keep it within your capability. I mean, if you start pushing it past your limits, that's when things happen. So yeah, I mean, there's risk of crashing, but that's with any sport too. So you just try to keep it within.
I mean, just to put it in perspective, so there's 38 sleds on this 1 mile ice oval. We're going speeds upwards of 110, 115 miles an hour, and we're all entering the corners at 80, 90 miles an hour within a foot or 2 of each other, power sliding.
Yeah.
borderline out of control, going through bumps at the same time.
No roll
So-
cage. No,
Nope.
I mean, there's
Open
no
cockpit.
like, yeah, you're strapped onto the sled. Are you attached to the sled at all? Just you and your arms.
Yeah,
dude.
your arms. Yeah.
Arms,
A lot of grip
fingers.
strength.
Dang. Yeah, I could imagine that when the crashes do happen, they're not probably fun to be a part of if you're a part of something like that.
Yeah,
So,
it depends. Sometimes they're not too bad, but
Yeah.
yeah, sometimes you hope you're not in the middle of it.
so give me maybe the just overview of your guys' career as brothers, racing partners. It started out, this was something you said you got into first, and then you kind of chased Big Brother into it a little bit, and then there was a team opportunity at some point to do it together.
I would say Dan was going to get into it at one point or another, with or without me. But I think I just kind of jump started the process, and then as soon as he saw me doing it, he couldn't hold back, and that was in 2015. And then about 2015 going into 2016, we had a trailer. We were basically full privateer life at that point, so that's when it cost the most. But I mean, we had each other. We had we were taking meticulous notes, and that was the quickest way to start actually gaining a lot of knowledge and just bouncing ideas off each other. At that point, we were just working together, going back and forth on sled setups and kind of keeping some things from each other, just to see what the other one would do in retaliation to try and pick up a little more speed. And by that process, it gave us a lot of ability riding, because you're trying to maybe ride a setup that might not be as good, or a sled that's not quite as fast, but you're trying to keep up with the other one. And then you make a little improvement, and then just little improvement after little improvement. And we just kept working through the semi-pro ranks. And then, what year we go pro?
This was our sixth year pro, actually.
6 year.
10 years, 4 in semi-pro, and then 6. And you got some semi-pro wins under your belt and got second in the championship. I can't remember if you won the other class, but you were right there, first and second in semi-pro championship. And yeah, this was our 6th year pro now.
Gotcha. And then as far as that goes, you were working your way. Is that a points-based system? All based on points and wins and placements?
Essentially like a high point championship.
Okay.
You get points per race, and then they compile for the year. And then at the end of the year, if you get the most points, you win the championship overall.
And then once you're in that pro circuit, you're there. You stay there. You have to remain competitive.
Yeah, I mean, you can show up and just have fun and ride, but if you don't get top 3 or top 5, you're going to be spending more money for sure, or not making any money. So if you win, you can, if you're consistently top 5, you're going to be making some money. So that's really, I guess, a big part. I mean, we've always just done it for the passion and the dream, really, to go racing and to help Polaris snowmobiles. Cause like the sled that we run, it's essentially the trail sled for Polaris. So, I mean, the general consumer, they get to use some of the parts that we're developing, and we implement them on the trail sled and send them out the door, So
Nice. I like that. All Polaris, always race for Polaris.
Yep.
Yeah,
we're
we bleed red.
Yeah.
What's so this is cool. We'll get into the history of snowmobiling here maybe a little bit, but Polaris and Arctic, rooted in Minnesota here, there's they are the pinnacle essentially of those are the top 2 brands in snowmobiling, or arguably.
Arguably, yeah, for sure. I mean, Skidoo, out of Ontario, maybe, I don't know, somewhere in Canada. They're right there too.
So why
battle of
Polaris?
those 3.
That's what Mom raced.
It's kind of what we grew up on too.
Yeah.
Even though Grandpa and Grandma, they rode different sleds too. Skidoo and a bunch of Johnson boats used to make a snowmobile back in the day too. So I think Grandpa ran that for a little bit. But no, we grew up on Polaris, and we've been sticking with it, and they've been good to us.
As soon as we got into it, I mean, they were right behind us. A lot of conversations with Tom Rager Jr. and Ben Hayes, and I mean, they've been so helpful with not only helping us get what we need to get, but the information that's behind it. There's a lot of crowdsourcing of information on how to develop a better sled, whether that be reinforcements, suspension tips, or just getting raw speed out of the snowmobiles. Everybody in Polaris camp likes to work together and just make sure that Polaris is on top of the box at the end of the day.
So I think this is always an interesting question to think about, what is the financial feasibility of being able to be a professional, even you guys, you've now won one of the most prestigious races in snowmobile racing. You guys both have full-time jobs otherwise. I mean, this is not, a sport, even though you essentially not quite mastered it, but you're very much so close to the pinnacle of this sport. It's not paying the bills full time to like be a full time snowmobile racer.
Yeah, you know, I mean, there's maybe one guy that races in the cross country circuit, and he pretty much does it full time.
Okay.
But he's still, I know he has a small side gig, does a few side things. But yeah, it's a fun side hobby, and if you can make some money at it, it's you know, dream come true really. So we've been fortunate to bring in a little bit of money doing it, and I mean, it's not enough where you can just go do it full time too. Right. But still, we're only racing 8 to 8 weekends a year. So it's like, hey, I mean, we got to do something the rest of the year too. So might as well make more money, and
I like that.
It helps. But yeah, if you can win, you can actually make some money. So.
And obviously, growing through the years into things like sponsorships, social media, all of this stuff, you start from nowhere, nothing, as brothers, just kind of doing this hobby. And then all of a sudden you grow, you start to have success, you start to get sponsors, start to get followings on social media. And all of a sudden you realize, hey, we've got something here that probably like at some point needs a little bit of like business definition as far as our relationship goes. Do you guys want to elaborate on that at all? As much as you want to, as far as like the tensions that come up as brothers in business dealings or relationships.
Yeah, for sure. I can touch on it real quick too. I mean, we try to do as much as we can with parts and things. We try to do it together actually. And I mean, it worked out pretty good, but you know, when you're paying for these parts and paying for these parts and trying to make it all work, you know, we did process through how that worked, and it worked fine, but then we ultimately, it didn't work out super great. So then now we just do all of our stuff pretty much separate, and that's been working good, you know, and that we're just keeping it professional, and that helps really with our program, keeping things straight. So
yeah, I mean, there's never any point where it's not like I'm not going to share a part with you or anything like that, but it's, you know, having those boundaries when you start getting into, you know, a lot of money and, you know, parts and stuff like that. It was nice. Dan and I had a lot of open conversations and just talk through a lot of these things, because, you know, as you grow as a racer and you grow as a family, you know, you need to make sure that, you know, everybody's aware of kind of what your own responsibilities are.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Well, I'm super happy for you guys. I'm super stoked that you guys, you know, grew together, are growing kind of individually within the sport as well, and then still together here winning this huge race in just this last February. So really, really cool testament to what you guys have been able to do as navigating family dynamics in the sport. So yeah. Should we talk history of snowmobiling a little bit, or what? Let's do it. So do you guys know where the roots are of the sport? You know anything about it? What do you know?
I think it was from Hattin. They were a conveyor belt manufacturer. They made a lot of like farming equipment, and then that all kind of transitioned. They had the equipment to make these conveyors, and then they put a motor on one of them and were able to ride them on top of snow. That's my understanding.
Yeah,
I'm not a historian.
And both Artie Cat and players, I think, were, you know, the Hattin, Edgar Hattin had a hand in all of it.
Yeah.
So
they were
interesting.
Yeah.
Interesting. My assistant here, it says inventors across North America, probably who you guys mentioned, experiments with motorized sleds. Stemming from farm equipment originally, combining airplane propellers and modified cars on skis. In 1927, Carl Eliason of Wisconsin developed one of the earliest snowmobile prototypes resembling modern designs. Really, the birthplace of the modern snowmobile can go back to that 1950. It says 1959. Joseph Armand Bombardier of Canada released the Ski-Doo.
Makes sense.
I love hearing the name Joseph Armand Bombardier, and that he must have been the innovator of all those like tracked machines, kind of as we know it today, because I ran a Bombardier Snowcat out in Colorado when I ran a machine out there. So I'm guessing that name stems from probably a Snowcat company was born out of those innovations, as well as Ski-Doo and some other manufacturers then started popping up. Rapid growth throughout the 60s, particularly here in Minnesota, where we see brands like Polaris and Arctic Cat. Polaris founded in Roseau, and then Articat started in Thief River Falls. So are they still, is that like headquarters? You can go to Roseau and Thief River Falls and see these headquarters?
Yep. Yeah, you can go on plant tours, and Polaris has a Hall of Fame.
Awesome.
Big building, and there's a lot of cool things to see. Seeing the assembly line is actually kind of wild. I mean, it's just a massive warehouse. You can walk up and down each production line, see how the snowmobiles are put together, see how the side-by-sides and the four-wheelers are put together. And I mean, the amount of thought they put into how to make a snowmobile efficiently is kind of mind-boggling.
Yeah, it's pretty top secret too. You can't be taking photos on the assembly line or anything. Like we were up there here for the 70th anniversary this year, this last August, and they were doing plant tours, and you can walk through and everything, but it's pretty tight knit, and that's just at the factory too. I was in Wyoming, Minnesota, at Polaris's shop there, and that place is like fully locked down,
like key card entry.
It's gated all the way around, and you come around inside, and it's just like immaculate, like nice glass. So like, I mean, and they just must do a lot of research.
So the sleds are still made in the United States. Yep. They make everything in the U.S. here. Interesting.
I think it's something like 200 snowmobiles they can make a day at the Roseau plant.
Wow. It's a lot of snowmobiles.
Something like that.
It's a lot of snowmobiles a day, dude.
Yeah.
That's crazy. So it says here, the rise of organized racing really was the late 60s, early 70s. You saw events like the I-500 get established in the late 60s. But mainly the sport began as informal drag races on frozen lakes, turned into sanctioned oval races and cross-country competitions. Let's talk about the I-500, maybe the roots of that race a little bit. That was one that would have started 69, it looks like. Would have been the first race. And the guy who won it ran it in just under 14 hours. What was your guys' time on it this year?
Yeah, ours was like 8 hours and 30 minutes.
So that just goes to show, and that was one dude too. It was what's his name here? It was Dan Plonk. There was 47 snowmobiles. Dan Plonk won the inaugural event after nearly 14 hours of racing on a Ski-Doo. Dude, could you imagine, dude, that by yourself, dude?
I don't know if I could.
No, not on that thing.
I mean, we've both done 400 plus laps on the track in one race, and that's a handful.
Yeah,
500 on something with limited suspension would be pretty tough.
I've seen some pictures from way back then, and like, I mean, the people are right on the track. Like the sides of the track are pretty much people, so it's it's a lot different now.
Is there nets and stuff? Is it like, I mean, I've been to a NASCAR race where I'm about to go down to Nashville and watch another NASCAR race, but is there like there's a bunch of safety precautions, nets, or is it pretty like ghetto comparatively?
It's pretty much straw bales if there are. Yeah,
straw bales, and then if you make it over those, there's chain link fence.
Okay, there's chain link fence.
Yeah, but the corners are big and bermed, and they go up high, so it's yeah, it's quite the event for sure.
Yeah, so I love this stuff, and maybe there's a little bit of history nuggets in here you guys didn't know. Probably not, but the I-500 snowmobile race, known as the Soo I-500, is the largest and most prestigious largest and most prestigious oval ice endurance races in the world. Held every February in Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan. It pits the top riders in the world and their teams against a brutal 500-lap challenge on a 1-mile oval ice track. The track was built on a former World War II munitions site. The clay base was perfect for forming the 1-mile oval, and each year it's layered with 1.5 plus million gallons of water to create 12 to 18 inch thick ice surface. So you guys are racing on ice.
Yep. It's like a foot and a half almost.
But it kind of tears up, so there's it's not, I mean, it's slick, but there's traction on it as well as it gets eaten up probably. Those conditions change drastically throughout the day, or towards the end of the track gets a little rougher?
So, I mean, I wouldn't say it's necessarily super slick because we're running a lot of studs and pretty long carbides. So we're running a pretty aggressive traction setup. So, but as the course goes on and we get down to dirt, you'll start losing carbide, you'll start losing studs too. So then your traction kind of goes back and forth between being heavy on traction in the front and then heavy on traction in the back.
Yeah, and the bumps develop too because you got 18 inches of ice. So then it starts digging into the ice, and then that stuff that gets dug out, that starts piling up. So then you get like ruts and 2-foot rollers, 3-foot rollers, and you're doubling it on an ice track on a 600cc twin piped, fully modified snowmobile, snowcross sled. So I mean, it's pushing 155 horse probably.
Yeah.
Or more.
And we're running on limited ice suspension. So our sleds are slammed somewhat to the ground.
Yep. Hitting 116 mile an hour to 119. It depends. We're usually not trying to go 120, but it's almost more beneficial to go 115 every single time around that track, and you'll be better off.
And obviously, you know, that with the teams, there's the team dynamic of the pit stops and the driver swaps. That's there's any yellow flags, any caution flags, any like other groupings in that race, or is it all just like pit stops and driver swaps and nonstop racing?
So it's, you know, the NASCAR of snowmobile racing. So you got yellow flags, you got green flags, you got plow breaks too. So every 100 miles, they do a plow break. So the yellow flag comes out and they start plowing and clear off the track. They do that every 100 miles. So, and then at every 100 miles, we switched. I started the race. At 100 miles, Charlie hopped on, and then at 200, I hopped back on, and then I finished it off from 400 to 500. So yeah, there are yellows, and you don't want to pit under green because there's 36 sleds, and you need to stay on the lead lap until towards the end of the race, and then you just try to drive to the front. And Charlie ran 200 super clean laps and kept us in position, and then I guess I just hopped on the sled and tried to drive to the front. And I think we led 105 laps out of the 500 is what I heard. So that's super, super good. And I mean, we didn't really care until the last 100. As soon as we got to the last 100, even like the last 60 is really critical to just get to the front. So yeah.
Yeah. Was that always part? I mean, obviously you make a plan for it. You guys had your plan. You knew that you were going to run the legs you ran. What goes into the strategy of that, deciding who's gonna race where, run where?
So basically, we had been talking about it the whole way out there, and I mean, kind of all season, Dan's been running just super fast and making a lot of good moves and beating the best. So we went out there with the strategy of he's going to go out there, push the sled to the limitations, and keep moving us as fast to the front as we can and stay up there. And then my strategy was just go out there, maintain track position, not fall back, stay on the lead lap, and take a lot harder look at like the equipment, where Dan's going to be pushing the equipment, doing a lot more sprinting, going through some more brake, just being a little harder on equipment, driving right through whatever he needs to drive through. And I'm kind of trying to coast more into the corners and, just stay around with the leaders, keep them in sight, and then just get Dan to the last 100 laps where he can just go out and just flat out sprint and have as much sled left as possible.
I love it. No room for egos in a good team, dude.
No, really.
There ain't no room for egos in a good team.
No,
dude.
you really showed that this year. I mean, we're dangerous with that because like Charlie can run that fast pace too, but it's like if he can save the sled a little bit, you really don't want two guys that just drive the crap out of the sled, because then the last guy gets on the sled and it's gone. So it's like you don't need to race really until the last 100.
Like we came in, we had right around just over half the brake pads left on the last 100 laps, and Dan came in and he was halfway through the steel on his brake pads.
I had no brake. No, it was literally almost through the steel. Like the sled was barely slowing down. Like if you look on my Facebook page, we made new Facebook pages, but Team Rev Racing, Dan Revering 101, you can see some pictures of the brake pads where they're halfway through the steel. There's no pad left.
So the dynamics of that day, obviously everyone was there. Were your uncles there for that? Did they get to?
This was one of the first years. I think Johnny didn't make it. And then our grandparents, they passed away a few years ago. So they were watching above us for sure. I mean, like I said at the banquet in the speech, they had probably bigger smiles than us even after all of this. We knew we could just, they've been there every year, when they were alive. So now it's like, that one was for them. For sure.
But as far as celebrating a win like that or breaking a win down like that goes, I mean, you guys were staying out in Michigan at the time with the family out there. You had some family out there with you.
Mm-hmm.
Yep. Yeah, the whole crew. So Nelson International Trucks, it was a pit crew of
what's this, Nelson, Team Nelson?
Yeah,
you guys
Team
are on?
Nelson Racing. Yep. So Ryan Nelson, the owner of Nelson International Trucks, he asked Charlie and I to race for him like 6 years ago, I think. So I think this was our 6-year racing for him.
And where are they
raced
out
that
of?
COVID year.
Oh, that's right.
Where's Nelson International Track?
Their headquarters in Wilmer, and then they have locations Fargo, Grand Forks,
Okay.
Dickinson, and Bismarck. So
Gotcha.
big
Okay.
truck like agriculture commercial company.
Okay.
But yeah, so he asked us to race for him. He builds the sled. Well, he actually gets the motor and the chassis ready, and then Dad, Charlie, and I, we go down there and pretty much go through it with him too. And he's been super awesome to have. Just he's almost family now too. He's similar to us, and it's been fun. So we got to hang out with the crew, all of us. I think there were 22 of us, and we were at the casino after the banquet and put down some cold adult beverages and celebrated hard.
Like, yeah.
It was awesome.
What was your best finish? You guys have raced this event six times prior together, attempting this. What's your best finish?
Fourth.
Fourth.
Yep.
Same team,
Okay.
fourth. Yeah. I think we both raced with a different team once because you went one year
Okay.
without me, and then I went 1 year without you too. But then, 4th, 7th, 9th, and 21st, and now first.
Yeah.
Pretty sweet.
Once you've won it, do you feel like you have insight, or is it like it's like winning the Super Bowl? There's nothing you can maybe I did do this once, but there's nothing that could prepare you to do it again besides just like being harder and better. You know,
I mean, I think after winning it, you kind of, we already knew what goes into taking the win at this race. I mean, there's a lot of luck, a lot of preparation, a lot of strategy. I mean, strategy is really huge. I mean, making sure that you're coming in at the right times. And then, luck's the huge factor, making sure that you don't accidentally get tangled up with somebody, or, somebody maybe goes down, their sled breaks down that might be in front of you, or battling with Dan. Dan was battling with some guys, and their motor went down. So then Dan, didn't have to battle him anymore.
Yeah, you get lucky sometimes, but you got to be there too,
Yeah.
That's just being there.
Yeah,
Keeping
but
your
I would,
nose clean.
keep your nose. I'd say we'd probably just do the exact same thing over if we could,
Yeah.
because we just came in. It was good vibes, positive vibes all week and all winter, and then we had just general maintenance on the sled on race day, and that's what you wish for.
That's
What's
all you know.
what's like the age range of these participants in this race?
Well, it was Johnny, our uncle. Last year, he raced the Soo International 500 here. I think he was 57.
Wow.
So,
Yeah.
and I'm 33 or 34.
So you might have 20 years left. You could maybe do it for another 20 years potentially.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how Johnny did it, but
Wow.
yeah. And then you got to be 18 to race.
So there's some young kids.
Yeah, Jesse was 19, I think, was the youngest out there this year.
Wow.
So 19 to 57 roughly. I
Interesting.
mean, there might be a guy older than 57 actually out there.
So what else then? Obviously, this was the big event of the year that kind of like marked your guys's really can't beat the success of that. But like, what else did this season kind of open up for you guys? Or do you feel like you're having won this race? Does it open up a lot of opportunities beyond?
Man, just winning this race as family members, we're the only two sole brothers to do it. So I mean,
The only family members that have ever won this race.
well, Taylor and Bo Bunky did it too, but they had a third driver. And that was a
Okay.
couple years ago. So we're the only two brothers ever to win it solely. So like just to do that. And so, I mean, yeah, there's sponsorship opportunities and just having that accolade really. And knowing our uncles did it for 30 years and then now we actually were able, and they didn't win or anything. So then just to get it done, that's awesome. I mean, that's really number one, just to do it together. And that's
and
what
you
we
had a
wanted.
good season otherwise as well. Did you win another race?
Yeah, I
this
won.
year?
I won a couple. So I won Parker Rapids on the national circuit. So which you get a big neon sign and some decent payout on that too. So we've been wanting the Parker Rapids national.
Can I
cross
ask
country.
what's a decent payout in a snowmobile race?
Yeah.
Is that fair to ask?
Pine Lake for pro stock this year paid out over $16,000.
Okay.
One race.
Okay,
So
and if you don't have to spend half of that on a sled, then you're doing all right.
Yeah,
Right.
absolutely. Well, right. If you can negotiate a few different deals. I mean, a couple years ago, I won Pine Lake, and it was $10,000 on the check at least, is what it said. So,
Okay.
and my wife Laura, I told her if I win it, like jokingly, like a month before the race, I'm like, if I win this, I'll get you whatever you want. And she's like, well, can I get a new couch? And I'm like, yeah, sure. And then I won it a month later, and she's like, so how about that couch? I'm like, oh man.
It's a nice couch.
So yeah, there's some decent money. I mean, it's pretty crazy. But yeah, so I won Parker Rapids this year. I've got 5 national cross country circuit wins. Charlie's got some podiums. He's gotten second before in the pro class. And it just goes in waves. Sometimes you have good years. Like last year, I didn't get in the top 5. Charlie didn't get in the top 5 last year either. And then this year we came and we had a little better performance all year. I had several top 3s, and Charlie was right there nipping at top 5s, and we brought that momentum into the Sault Ste. Marie, Michigan race, and definitely saw that the progression this year.
So that the sponsorship world in snowmobile racing, like what do you have to pay for? What do your sponsors help you guys with? How do you balance those expenses?
You can definitely tell you come from a racing background out west. But it's some of it we can't talk about a whole lot, but there's parts and certain things from certain people where they help out, and gear, and it depends. You can if you win a few races or get top 3s, you got that little bit of negotiating power on your resume that you send in, and you can work some deals. And if you work with good people and you've got something to bring to the table, like Charlie and I had Facebook pages with 10,000 people on them. So, that helps too. And we're just trying to help the sport, and people and sponsors like that. So you bring good positive vibes and show, that you're going to help them out a little bit. You can get cash, you can get parts, you can get gear, you can get a bunch of things. So it's pretty amazing what sponsors will do, and we need them too. It's hard to go racing if you don't have sponsors, because then it's a lot of money.
Yeah, right. So this I-500, you mentioned that you can do it in pairs of 3. The first guy who did it won it by himself. People still run it by themselves.
I think this year, it's been a few years since anyone's ran it by themselves.
Are there rules? Are there standards for that?
I don't know if there is. I think you can run it solo op if you want, but it's more beneficial to really have 3 nowadays. It's just we wanted to do it with 2. So, but a lot of 3-man, a lot of 4-man teams nowadays.
I think the benefit to having just 2 people is you get to see the track a lot more as it develops.
You get a feel for everything.
Yeah, you start going to like 3- and 4-man teams. Now you might only see the track once, and you might be going out there at lap 400. You don't know where all the chuck holes or the bumps are all sitting at, so you might come into a situation where you didn't know it was there, and you're coming in at 100 miles an hour. So if you didn't realize a hole was there, it can end pretty quickly.
Right.
Yep.
So you said you only did 8 races. Is that about what it is?
I think, they might have canceled one. Was it this year? I don't know. Mother Nature hasn't been great to us, and
last year was the year before really this one was really bad.
Yeah,
did you guys even race?
We ran 3 races. So it's super tough. Like the Otter Tail Lake race now in Otter Tail County, they had to cancel that one, and just hard to race when you don't get cold weather, and that's how it goes. We've seen it before for sure. They've canceled races in the 90s and 2000s.
That was not this last year, the year before.
It was the year before this last winter, yeah.
Yep. Did they do a race out on Otter Tail though?
Yeah, they do. So this was the second annual.
And that's a pro race?
Yep.
Interesting.
Pro
I
national.
didn't know that. Okay,
So
let's talk about that.
So there were
that's anything Otter Tail County related. We gotta dive
absolutely.
into
And
the local happening.
There were some local sponsors that stepped up too, really, and just the local trail club for Otter Tail County. Otter Trail Riders were super helpful. Minnesota Motors was super helpful. Dan Peterson Farms, Dan Johnson Dock and Lift, Dave Dirkman. Few different folks really helped out, bring the purse up on that, and just it was a good event. I was happy to see just a lot of local support. So we're coming back this next winter. It'll be same deal. It'll be a lake race right on that east side of Otter Tail Lake, right by Otter Tail City. So national cross country circuit of Core Power Sports.
And that's track wise, it's not oval.
Ice Le Mans is what they call it. So it'd
Ice
be like
Le
an
Mans.
IndyCar track.
Yeah.
So lefts and rights and
lefts and rights versus just
roundy rounds.
Yep, turn left, turn left.
Yeah.
Turn left.
So in cross country and national cross country circuit, you got your Le Mans track, which is like an Indy style track on a lake. Plowed or not plowed, and then you got your ditch racing, trail racing right down the ditch, and then you got ski hill. So there's 3 different disciplines with the national cross country circuit. And we're fortunate to have the national cross country circuit right in the Midwest.
Yeah,
so that helps.
The ski hill, is that what you guys were doing in Ironwood?
Ironwood, yeah.
That was the little Mount Zion race. That's
right,
so cool. So that's and I knew that they did that every year because I went to school there and we ran that ski area.
Oh, you did?
Yeah, that was part of our college program. We were responsible for building and maintaining the ski area.
All the kids are doing the same thing right now. They helped the whole circuit when we were there.
So at the end of the year when that snowmobile race was coming through in the spring, we all worked on that as a college like a college project type thing. So very interesting.
That's
how
awesome.
that
they
comes
were so supportive. I mean, they were so grateful to see us all out there, and
heck yeah,
it was really fun.
just totally destroyed the ski hill.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
sure
I
for what
bet.
was left of it for that year. But so to me, when I heard that you guys typically race cross country, that oval, the I-500 was actually the only oval race you guys even did this year. Is that the only oval race you usually do?
Chuck does a couple in Eagle River. I forgot about that, but otherwise,
That's the other big one. The Eagle River is the other big one
World
in Wisconsin, right?
Championship. Yep.
Okay.
That one's pretty huge too. The World Championship's more kind of geared towards the vintage type stuff, but the weekend that I go, the enduro weekend, they also have like the champ sleds, which is smaller 440 chassis on super lightweight chassis with high horsepower motors. But I do the enduro, which is the same motor platform that we run the I-500 with, and that one it's a quarter, or I think 3/8 mile ice oval, so it's very compact. A lot of bar to bar. You're really close to everybody, and you're just kind of hanging on. You can make it without refueling at that race, though.
Oh, how long is that one?
It's 150 laps.
Okay.
So it ends up being about 65 miles. But typically in the middle of the race, they'll have a plow break where you can come in and do skis, and some of the people do need to get some fuel.
Gotcha. So this 500-mile oval race, is anything else exist like it in the sport of snowmobile racing?
No.
Not that I know of. No.
That's it.
That's one of a kind. That's why they call it the crown jewel,
Yeah.
I think, because it's a 1 mile oval track and you do 500 laps and it's all in one city. And so it's
super cool.
Yeah.
Get her
Super
done.
cool.
And
And it's got the NASCAR bank corners. If you stand in corner number 1, I mean, you'll slide down to the bottom. That's how steep it is.
Dang. So the series, you guys do a combination of the ditch races and all this. I'm guessing there's probably point to point races. The big one was historically they used to race from Winnipeg down into Minnesota.
Yep, to St. Paul. So now they still do that one for the National Cross Country Circuit. It's the I-500 still, but it's called the Grigala Goodrich 500.
Okay.
So 500 miles, but in terrain racing. So there's 2 500-mile races, the Soo out in Michigan. That's the Soo I-500, and then now it's the Grigala Goodrich 500, northern Minnesota terrain race.
Do you do that one?
We do, both of us. Yep.
And is that individual then?
That's individual.
Because you can't hand off because
Right.
you got to try to catch the sled to the next point, and it's
500 miles, 2 days.
In
2 days,
perspective,
500
when they
miles. You
when
sleep.
Yeah.
yeah.
Okay,
you
so
do.
they turn off the race for
Yep.
X amount of hours at night.
When they first started, it was a 4 or 5 day race, and now we're down to 2 days.
Wow.
You're on the sled for about 4.5 hours a day.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Crazy. And then you're doing gas and pit stops and
Averaging about 70 miles an hour with crossing roads and getting fuel.
okay, so how then you must have stages, you have to leave stuff along the way, you have to prep and leave stuff along the way, or do you have teams that are chasing ahead of you to try to keep up with you on the road?
So basically, we'll do like a 120-mile loop, and at the end of at the 60-mile mark, there'll be like a remote fuel stop. So then we'll stop. They'll have a big tanker truck that has like 8 nozzles, and then as you come in, you'll just fuel up at that remote fuel stop, and then you'll come back around and do the same thing back at the staging area. But at that point, at about 120 miles, you're going to need to take oil. You know, if you need to make any suspension adjustments, that's where you'll make them there, and and then you'll go around for the second lap. And
it's a lap.
It turned into being a lap. They used to do.
Okay.
It used to be when I raced in 2017 from Winnipeg to Bemidji, and that was point to point.
That's cool.
Three
See,
days.
that's a
So,
cooler to me.
yeah.
That's like that adds even a different dynamic.
Yeah, we
to it
crossed the
completely,
border
right?
and everything. So
Yeah.
I mean, they changed it a little bit since then because like going across the border is kind of a cumbersome too. You know, you go on the clock when you start in Winnipeg, and then you get to the border. They take your time, so then that's your first leg. It takes 15 minutes to get through the border unless they want to search your sled or something.
Right.
Which I think one of the girls, Jill Hatteen, got searched, I think, because she had some like radiation coming off of I think she had a surgery of some sort and had radiation still. Anyway, so then they clock your time again as soon as you get through the border, and then you run down to Thief River, stay overnight there, and then proceed on. So they haven't done that since 2017. Now they do 2 days.
I think they need to step it up and not let you guys sleep, dude.
Right? What's that Canes Quest? Is that what they do there?
Yeah.
Do they run that one straight through? I don't know. I don't know if there's a race for that. ISR probably won't be.
I don't think ISR would like that.
Yeah, that's our sanctioning body, and they probably wouldn't like that.
So
legality stuff.
Are you guys? You don't see this stopping anytime soon for you guys. You're gonna just keep doing this. You guys both have kids.
Charlie's got 3 kids.
I got 3 kids. I'm going to a birthday party after this.
Nice.
Going to the pool.
Nice. Going to the pool. How old is your oldest?
5 years old today. And then
snowmobile racer. You got little sleds.
Oh yeah. Yep.
Oh yeah.
Yep. Yeah. She logged miles this winter. Probably more in the ditch than I did actually.
Yeah.
No joke.
She's gonna be she'd be a
ripper.
Little ripper for sure.
Do they do male and female divisions in snowmobiling then? They have a male and female?
Yep.
They run the I-500 female race?
Yeah, so in the national cross-country circuit power sports, they got pro stock, and then they got semi-pro stock, sport, then there's juniors, trail class, pro women, junior women. So like you could come and hop on your trail sled and just get in the trail class and race core power sports too, and just pay $50 or something for the weekend and come and race Ottertail next year. So I might have to get you on one of the Team Rev Racing sleds. Yeah.
I actually would love to go snowmobiling with you guys sometime. I've only
at least go try.
I think I've only been on a snowmobile a couple times in my life, which growing up in Minnesota, that's kind of crazy. Probably no more than 2 times. Probably have I been on a snowmobile. Like, well, that's not true. A little shuttling around ski areas and stuff. But like as far as actually going out and like riding on a trail somewhere in Minnesota, I mean, this is it probably is the best place in the country outside of like living in like Wyoming or Montana or Colorado to own a snowmobile and be a part of snowmobile culture. So, you want to talk more about that locally, like the opportunities we have here in Ottertail County, in Fergus Falls with the sport of snowmobiling?
I mean, there's so many snowmobile clubs out there that do such a great job of maintaining trails, talking to farmers, getting trails available for us to use. And I mean, it's been awesome being able to go out with your friend group and go ride some trails, go to Inspiration Peak for the day and just do a big loop somewhere. Or Dan and I are pretty big like backcountry guys, so being able to know your neighbors and go find some good meadows that have deep snow. And I think it's a great culture, and everybody in the snowmobiling world is awesome to be around.
Yeah, I have a friend who just bought a sled out in Montana now, and I'm like, I need to go out and Adam Johnson, he just bought a sled out in Bozeman, and I'm seeing pictures of him, and I'm like, I need to go out and ski with him, go out, get pulled around, and do some of that stuff. But as far as future outlook of the sport, do you guys care to speculate? Maybe, obviously, we've seen the times go from 14 hours down to 8 hours and change here. Where does it stop? Where does the evolution of the sport go?
Well, I think like you're seeing a combination of the sleds and chassis getting so much better. The suspension is miles apart of where it used to be, but then you're also seeing a transition from the riders too, where, I mean, you could look at the sport of motocross for a perfect example. You look at the 80s and 90s versus now everybody, they work out so hard. I mean, they all have trainers, everybody's on diet.
Yeah, you're jacked, Charlie. Look at you, man.
Dad bod.
Yeah, the dad bod right there.
It works.
But yeah, no, I mean, you're seeing a transition of both the snowmobiles and the rider come along, and now there's so much information out there, and there's so much, I think a key point is like the data gathering we do. Dan and I run a couple $1,000 data acquisition system where we can see everything that's going on in the computer of our snowmobiles for like clutch ratios, ignition timing, how it's changing as we're riding. So we know if we're running good fuel or bad fuel. Your EGT, your exhaust temperatures really add a huge thing of knowing what's going on in your motor. So there's so much science and physical changes to the sport that it's kind of, in the next 10 years, you never know what's going to happen. They're working on some suspensions that can change on the fly. You push a button and now your suspension got softer or more stiff depending on what you need to have happen. So I imagine, with in the next 10 years, you might see AI controlling that on the fly, and you never even know.
Now you're speaking the language here. I love it.
Yeah, so the progression is still there for sure. I mean, it has evolved a lot in the last 30 years. I don't think it'll, change as much as it did in the last 30 years. But now we're, like Charlie's saying, getting into that Fox shock dynamics, which changes on the fly. If you get integrate AI into that too. I mean, yeah, it could.
Like if
make
you could
times
run a
quicker.
lap around an oval, and AI could make an adjustment for you for the next lap
Yeah.
according to what it just experienced.
And
on the
it'll
last
do it on the
lap.
fly
and
too.
it already does it without AI. So with that Fox dynamics, as soon as you leave the ground, it goes to full length. It knows you're in the air. So then, and it has gyros too. So it knows where your sled's at. So it'll stiffen a shock in the air before you come down, so you don't completely compress your shock and bottom out.
Wow.
But the thing is, right now, if you want to change your shim package, however, when you hit a bump, how it reacts, you got to go in and reprogram it with your computer.
Yeah.
Like if you're reflashing the ECU on the sled, it's the same thing. So like where AI in the future could, I mean, maybe eliminate that, where it could just change it on the fly. But who knows?
And that's all speculation.
Yeah, that's all speculation.
I like to speculate.
Yeah,
about
it's
that.
fun
What
to
about-
speculate. We're Walker Evans Racing, though.
Yeah.
And we're gonna stick with that.
Walker Evans makes a really good shot.
It's perfect
Okay.
for what we need, and we can rebuild them and do all that at our shop. So we're gonna
And
stick with
the
that.
hold up
program.
with that more advanced setup is like you need to basically be a programmer to be able to adjust your shock. So you wouldn't do it in your home shop. You would need somebody with a computer with the program that would know what they're actually changing. So That's
Right.
kind of the hold up where it's at right now.
It's like the user interface, like it hasn't quite got packaged into something that's like usable yet.
Right.
Patents.
Yeah.
Yep.
There's patents.
What about electric snowmobiles? I know that there were, like back in the 70s and the early innovations of the sports, there was some electric snowmobiles that were like pretty popular that just died away and phased off kind of.
Yeah, there was a Taiga, I think, recently,
Oh,
but
yeah.
we haven't seen really any yet. You know, like on the motocross scene, Supercross, they have raced electric dirt bikes on that scene, but we haven't
Okay.
seen a whole lot of it. I think maybe at some national forest or something. Otherwise, I think Reed Malmstrom maybe had an electric one at Big Sky, but don't quote me on that. But no, we haven't seen a whole lot of electric out there. We're still twin pipes, fossil fuel, and burn 116 octane and smell the cherries.
It seems to me like something that instant torque, right? I mean, I'm not a gear guy. Obviously, you have power, you have different stuff that goes into it, but like battery, instant torque. It's like, isn't that like probably going to be faster once they
I think the
perfect
main
that?
the main holdup right now is the battery technology. I mean,
Right.
when you're trying to race at -30,
correct?
it's pretty difficult to keep a battery warm enough to be able to go any sort of distance. And when we're doing long races over 150 miles, it's gonna be tough.
Right.
So I think the technology might get there, but then you also run into the weight issues. So I mean, we're already trying to muscle around a 420, 430 pound snowmobile. So now you make that thing 600 pounds and you're trying to jump road approaches. It's already a handful.
Even
Yeah.
12-pound change in a motor or something, we can feel that.
Yeah.
So
Huh.
50 would be a lot.
Yeah, that's interesting. Interesting perspective on that. So, what else as far as maybe some opportunities that you think you guys will maybe have next year or going forward that you didn't have, maybe at this point in your careers?
I mean, Charlie and I, we've always wanted to run the Iron Dog. I don't know if it'll ever happen, but that's another one of the top 3 most grueling snowmobile races in the world up in Alaska. And it's like
Ooh.
2,500 miles. But I mean,
2,500 miles.
yeah. So like, I don't know. We want to do it, but I don't know. So keep your eyes out. I don't know. We might.
So
never-
that's a week long of racing or what?
Yeah.
And is that a point to point or like?
Yep.
And not even point to point. You go like town to town. At least we have markers to go on our 500-mile races. Those guys, they're going off like GPS and just going to the next town. So there is also
Yeah.
that strategy. Like you're navigating backcountry Alaska, going over mountain ranges. This year there was 70 miles of the burn where there was no snow at all. So now you're trying to figure out how to get through something like that without wrecking your snowmobile.
Overheating. They were driving like a mile and shutting their sled off because it overheated, and they did that 90 times in a row just to get through that.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
That's a big one, huh?
That's huge.
So you got the Iron Dog up in Alaska, and then you got the Soo 500 that we won, and then you got like the Terrain 500 in the Midwest here. Those are like your 3 really tough races to win.
Cane's Quest is pretty big for the Canadians over
Oh,
on
that's
the East
right.
Coast.
Yep, I don't know much
it's-
about Cane's Quest.
Yeah, I think it's measured in kilometers. I don't even know how long.
You guys
it is.
race
So those 4.
pretty much regionally here. You don't get too far away from your region,
Right.
but the Alaska race would be sick.
That'd be
That
sweet.
would be
We've
fun.
had the Ontario guys trying to get us to go over to Ontario, but it's 24 hours, to drive, and we got both have families, so it's the nice thing about being in the Midwest. We got the big cross country circuit here, and travel 12 hours to Michigan once a year, and it's fun.
What do you have to do to get into that race in Alaska?
It's a good question. You probably have to have some accolades in the semi-pro class, at least on the national cross country circuit, and then you'd be able to.
Like, would you guys do? You'd be able to get into that race?
We could for sure, yeah.
And then they require survival training. You have to carry X amount of gear for your partner. You're not carrying gear for yourself. You're carrying like clothes and stuff for your partner. So if they get wet, you have everything that you need to do first aid or to change their clothes. And
wait, you're out there on the sled together?
So you take two sleds. So it's two-man teams, and then you're on separate sleds, and then you carry all the parts for your snowmobile that you think you might need. And I think you're required to carry like 5 pounds of tools. So there's a few more requirements to be able to just run.
Probably are some requirements actually we'd have to go through to.
Yeah, they do first aid, they do survival training. Yeah,
intense.
Because it's no joke. I mean, you're running 24 hours a day. Not straight. They have layovers. But you don't know if you're going to be running at night, because sometimes there's a strategy up there. You might want to run at night if it's flat light and you can't see any differentiation between the bumps. You might want to run at night and use your headlights so you can actually see something.
Or if it's blizzarding during the day, you could take a layover when it's blizzarding during the day, but then you'd have to ride 12 hours in the dark to make up for it.
Interesting.
So there's some
that one
strategy.
Intrigues me more because it's like more of a feat of like a human feat. Than just driving around circles in a track. Not that that's not a feat.
All right, Benner. We're taking you out back here.
All right, okay.
No, totally kidding. Totally understand that one. That's why I don't even know. It'd be so hard to finish. I don't know if I could even.
It's such a commitment too. I mean,
you're
talking probably 30 or 40 grand just to get into the race, and then if you don't have any experience in Alaska riding up there, I mean, you need to pretty much go up there, if not weeks before. You need to at least go up there the winter before and race. What's it called, the expedition class? Yeah. And then you just run part of it.
Have you guys run up there a little bit?
No, never been to
Winnipeg
Alaska? As far north as we've been.
Gotcha.
We had a buddy, not a buddy. Well, he is a buddy now, but he came from Nunavut, Canada. Bought one of my sleds and raced it down here. But he's been trying to get us to go up to Nunavut, Canada, Rincon Inlet, which is very northeast kind of side of Canada, but. Still, it's hard to make that commitment, with full-time jobs too. We got only so much time off per year. And
what do you guys do again? You work for the city of Barnesville.
Yep, I'm the public works director for the city of Barnesville.
Okay, and you are?
Yep, and I work for CHS here and on the energy side. So any bulk diesel fuel, bulk propane, bulk oil. Too,
okay,
and
gotcha.
DEF. So we're both busy with that. Bunch of projects going on and keeps us busy.
Do you do anything with motorsports come up summer here as the seasons change? No.
Charlie's a big kind of triathlon, biking, running guy. So he
getting ready for gearing up for the Hoot Lake.
You bet. Yep, we're doing it.
Yeah, he might get me to do it this year too.
Yeah, I've been trying to talk him into it.
So you might see Team Rev at the
Team Rev Triathlon Racing, dude. Let's go.
Hoot Lake Triathlon at least.
Do you guys have another sibling, or is it just the two of you?
We got 2 older sisters.
You got 2 older sisters. Do they get into the sports at all? Motorsports stuff?
Sam did
she did two cross country races. Yeah. So our sister, she's a marketing VP of marketing at Vivi, which is Knut Nelson, I guess, formerly. Okay. But she ran 2 pro women cross country races actually. And then our oldest sister, they take care of like 5,000 head of cattle out in South Dakota.
Okay.
Yep.
Cool. So. What else we need to talk about here, guys? I feel like we talked about so much, but is there any what are some of the misconceptions? I feel like we addressed a bunch of the realities of snowmobile racing, but what are some misconceptions that people maybe have or common things you guys hear about what you guys do?
That all you got to do is push the throttle. That's as easy as that. You're just sitting on a couch cushion, squeezing the throttle, Yeah. But I mean, there's really a lot that goes into it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
On and off the track.
Right. Clutching, just being prepared, having a good week leading up to it, eating well and drinking fluids. It certainly can help change your weekend from winning to being outside the top 5 if you're doing everything right. So there's a lot of preparation that goes into it. And man, it's just fun. Like Charlie, Dad, and I, we wrench on everything ourselves. So, I mean, we had to learn a lot, what to do.
You probably don't see people who are out of shape winning these races. It's not it's not somebody who is lazy with the way that they take care of themselves. It's winning these things.
Yeah, that's the thing. If you want to win, you got to show up ready. That's for sure.
I love it. All right.
So that's fun.
Before we get out of here, I got to ask best business advice. A nice throwback question from the podcast days, but best business advice for these brothers, whether it be family dynamics of business or just snowmobile business or general business.
Yeah.
Well, you're asking us for advice?
Yeah.
Oh, man.
I don't give it out here. I mean, what do you think this is?
I mean, when it comes to snowmobile racing, you just gotta dive in and buy a used snowmobile sled and go racing and try to do things right. And then you get sponsors and you keep building on that. And then you hope you do well a few races and then you can get more sponsors. And when it comes to family and finances and stuff like that, you know, sometimes you might need to just do things separate and just work together and listen to each other and, you know, just know that it's all going to work out in the end. And it's really just ultimately about the family and having fun. So, yeah, just get an old sled and show up.
And I would say, I mean, if you're looking to get into the sport, don't be afraid to ask questions. Everybody out there is out there for the same end goal. Everybody wants to have fun. Everybody wants to see others do well. I mean, if you don't have something or you don't know something, I mean, we started out in that boat where we were going trailer to trailer, just trying to find anybody that would help us out and get us a little bit faster. And I mean, it turns it into that hobby that really pays off in the end. You really gain a whole new family by coming to the races.
Heck yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like Charlie and I, we've done a lot of cool things together in our lives and a lot of dumb things too, I guess, which kind of makes it even more fun. But, you know, racing's one thing that we show up to the weekend and it's like, you can just see the glow in both of our eyes. Like, hey, this is why we're doing it. You know, you get to hang out with your family all weekend long and drive the snowmobile back in the trailer and makes the winter go real quick, you know, so that helps. That's what Laura says too. And I agree with that. But yeah, just having fun with the family on the weekend brings us closer. Racing does for sure.
Mm-hmm. Well, be proud of what you guys have done to, you know, represent yourselves, your family, our community. I just think it's really, really cool. I get to talk to a lot of different people that have done a lot of different things here in our community and seeing somebody that I know grew up from Fergus Falls, reach the top of their sport. That's a really, really cool thing. And that's something our community should be proud of, producing people that go and do that. So be proud of that, guys. Thank you very much for being a part of the show and coming and telling your story here. So
thanks, Jake.
Thanks for having us on.
Yeah, of course. We'll have to get out snowmobiling next winter for sure.
We can go skiing or boarding too.
Oh, okay.
We
All
both
right.
know.
Oh
yeah, maybe.
I don't know about that.
Maybe we
board.
take a trip out to Montana.
Oh, I would love to go
and
to
do
Big
a little,
Sky again.
do some backcountry sledding and skiing.
Yeah.
That sounds like a good
nice.
time.
That'd be a deal.
That sounds like a good time.
That does sound fun.
Well, thank you guys very much for listening every week. Thank you for tuning in and listening to these shows, especially if you made it all the way to the end of the episode here. So thank you to the sponsors, Atlas Outdoor Services, Outstate Brewing, Stumbeano's Coffee, Victor Lundeen's, Fergus Home and Hardware, Liberty Business Systems, Wayne Schuett with Century 21 Atwood, and Dr. Zach Chiropractic. So, yeah, have a good day, everybody.